And we're back with Eve and Marie. There's Marie. Hi, Eve.
Hi.
And welcome back to our show, Millennials Adulting. Tonight we will be having a deep, brief, bum, bum, bum. Um, I think that for an hour-long conversation, a lot of the topics that we talk about really could be multiple shows. So we'll be brief, but it probably will be deep. And maybe you want to participate in the conversation. The chat is over there or down there, wherever it is on your screen. You should use it, and maybe we can have a conversation because we live in America. Maybe you don't live in America. Maybe you used to live in America, but do you love it here? Do you want to go because it's not all that you thought it would be? Can you afford a conversation? You know, so well, we have a new president. I think that we talked about that last time we were live, or that we were about to have a new president. He wasn't quite sworn in, or maybe he wasn't quite sworn in yet last time we talked. And today he's been sworn in, and all sorts of things have transpired. And it's funny because people say that you can't do that as president, and then he goes in and starts pushing boundaries and deciding that he can do things, but then some people and systems are like, hold up, wait a minute, you actually can't do that like that. If you want to do that, there's a process. And well, it'll be a circular conversation of sorts because the process, are people following a process? Are they doing what they want to do? Is that why you don't like it here? Did you think you might like it here? I don't want to put any words in anybody's mouths. And Maria and I have differing opinions on this topic about how it is here. Actually, I think we kind of meet right there in the middle on how it is here and what could be done. But most people are not willing to do things. So since most people are not willing to do things, we have to talk about other things. So I think we could start with this one thing. Our president was speaking at the Florida retreat the other day, and I lost it, but then I found it. It's right here. Not quite on your screen yet. Almost there. Almost. There it is. Here we go.
Fentanyl deaths, I can tell you. You would have had very little fentanyl coming into the southern border. Last week, I also signed an order that will designate the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. That's a very big designation. And as we are fighting hard to get birthright citizenship or automatic citizenship for the children of illegal aliens, that's another way. It's automatic citizenship for children of illegal aliens. That's the other term that they use, which is actually more accurate, more understandable. And it's ridiculous. We're the only country that has it, and certainly the only country that has it to that extent. And it was.
Dang it, I lost the other screen. Okay, this is where I want to stop first because Trump does that thing where he says all sorts of things, and inside of these things, there might be some truth. You just have to peel back all the layers and then find the sliver of truth inside of the confusion. And when he said that we're the only country that has this, but then he said we're the only country that has it to this extent, it's like, well, is America the only country that has birthright citizenship? I don't think we are. I do think that there are other countries, and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'll also do a little fact check on my own real quick. But I don't think that we're the only country that has this ability to gain citizenship by way of birth. But there are other stipulations involved. And then the specific amendment that he's talking about, no other country has a constitution with amendments like ours. So maybe he's talking about that. And if that's what he's talking about, then yeah, we've got some very specific things that would need to occur so that it all makes sense, so that the maths. But Marie, when he said that, did that give you any pause? Like, were you like, no, we're not the only country, or do you already know?
Part of me, I feel like it really varies. I think there are some countries that have some type of, citizenship thing if you're born there. In fact, there are like probably like Canada, Argentina, Brazil, Mexico, Venezuela, Panama, Peru, Uruguay.
Are you reading that list from somewhere? Because I'm
Yeah,
like,
I
you
did
just
actually keep the list. I didn't. But I knew about Mexico just because I knew a lot of people seek, like, they would seek sovereign, like seek asylum in Mexico from the get away from other places at one time. So I did know about that. But I knew there were some countries, but I just didn't know all of them.
okay. So then from there, that gave me pause because I don't want people to get lost in the confusion because he's talking about a very real thing that has very real consequences. I've seen all sorts of raids on different places and people in all sorts of panic. I saw one church, their deacons or pastors or somebody was carrying and they was trying to stop ICE from coming into the church. There's all sorts of crazy stuff going on. And it's because he's talking about what I would consider fighting words, right? You've got people and you're telling them they can't be in a place that they've called home for however long that they've called home. And if you went through a lot to get here, maybe you would fight to stay here. That's my thought. So then you can't just be willy-nilly with what is. You need to be clear-cut, focused, and on to the point. But that was my first pause.
Wasn't meant, if you look, it was really meant for children of slaves. This is when it happened. The children of slaves, it was not meant for everyone to come into our country by airplane or charging across the borders from all over the world and think they're going to become citizens. It's not meant for that. It wasn't meant for that. And hopefully at some point the courts will understand that without having to go through a whole big deal. This was meant for the children of slaves. And look at the timing of it and you'll see. And I hope judges will understand that. And it has to stop because it's really hurting our country very badly. In the coming weeks, I'm looking forward to working with Congress on a reconciliation bill that financially takes care of our plans to totally and permanently restore the sovereign borders of the United States once and.
Okay, and then he does that. He starts enveloping and rolling everything into one. So then you can't really give him any moment because maybe you disagreed, but then you agreed, and then you disagreed, then you agreed, and you're like, what the fuck just happened? Because I never expected to agree with the boogeyman, but then he starts saying things that might make sense, and you're like, well, maybe this is something I should take a look into. But like we talked about earlier, Marie, do we have time? Does anybody actually have the time to sit with any of this shit and try to peel it back and figure out what's really being said? I mean, just an honest moment between.
I mean, even if we had time, do we have time? And I say that to say that, like, I say that to say, he's not the most honest person. You know what I mean? The interesting part is like, even when Hitler was on his, on his little world tour as he was starting his tour, he said a lot of things. He never even initially wanted to just kill the Jews. He said that he wasn't going to invade said countries. He said that there were certain limits. He even sat down with, figureheads throughout that from Europe. And, it was like, well, no, he's not going to really, because even too, they didn't really mind what he was doing. As long as you don't bring it over here. And they're like, oh no, he should be fine. Well, I talked to him, he seems a reasonable man. And then he still did what he did. So the thing is that what he says and what he does doesn't necessarily always line up. I mean, he's also the same person that said he was going to build a wall and he didn't successfully build a wall. And then even the wall that he posed in front of was Obama's wall, which, to be honest with you, we were so busy thinking shit was good. We got a black president. I didn't even know the nigga built the wall. Like, did he build walls? Then it was like, yeah, he built walls and he deported 3 million people. What? But I even remember too, then in hindsight,
and the children in cages, you can't forget the children.
Yeah, the cages came from his regime. And then I even, like, when I thought back, I remember a colleague who worked, he had a visa, so he was here legit. But even they was like, yeah, some of y'all time's up. He's from the Caribbean, from Antigua. And it was like, they're like, no, you gotta go. Like the company even wrote a letter, which you got to think about it too. It's really hard to present as if no one can do his job but him when you're doing just business consulting. They're like, yeah, now that nigga still gotta go though. So he wasn't just deporting. Again, people don't realize it's not always just illegals. People can be here on visas and we can say your time is up. People can be here legally in general. So he's not targeting just undocumented workers. Or undocumented immigrants. He's targeting documented immigrants too. And really, from what I've been seeing, it's like anyone of color.
I mean, I'm gonna give this to you. I saw an ICE raid of, I want to say it was in Ohio, and it looked like they were targeting the Africans, but the person recording the video was clearly of Hispanic origin, like was speaking in Espanol, and then, you know, the entire video is in Spanish. And I'm like, how the nerve. I mean, I hope y'all got your papers, because the way that y'all just recording all of this going on over here, maybe you should be worried about if they, you know, turned and looked at you, but maybe you're not worried about it because you've got the complexion for the protection. Like, people can't be fooled. You know, Trump's not your friend, but sometimes we might have some interests that could align, and then from there, go from there.
You might have some things in common. You might like the same TV show, you know. There's not, you know, there's going to be little things. It doesn't mean, you know, that doesn't mean much. I don't. But going back to Trump strikes me someone that he plays to what's his interest, you know, which it also, he's like such a wild card. So here's the one thing I do know. Like, even when his previous relationship with Russia, a lot of his decisions, even he's making right now, don't really align with his relationship with Russia. And honestly, when he was younger, they bailed him out of a lot of shit. But I don't know if they've given him more money than AIPAC's given him. So that's even why even his stance where he did vocally say, hey, he needs to see a ceasefire. Now he like, well, I mean, it ain't even really my war. And while I'm going to cut funding to Americans till we sort out who deserves what or who's going to get what based off of what, I'm going to still run some money to Ukraine and Israel. And then people are going to also say, they're going to be, Marie, it's just weapons that are equivalent to that value. Well, sell them weapons, get the money and bring it back to America. Because even it's so odd to me that you can present this one regime where we got to take care of ourselves and we got to focus on America and we got to stop overspending. But I'm going to go ahead. But mind you, too, from what I was reading, like AIPAC and organizations and people that align with that, like with that regime, they've given him over like $200 million. So now he like, shit, that ain't my what war? Like, I don't see no war. Y'all need some guns. Take the guns. But meanwhile, you're freezing other spending. You've frozen everything or attempting to freeze everything, but money to Ukraine to wage your proxy war, which again, I thought wouldn't have persisted considering his relationship with Putin. And then, you know, like I said, and Putin also is arming the resistance side on the whole, you know, in the Gaza Strip. So it's kind of like, again, it's all this shit is weird, but it just like goes to show like how politics is such a double-edged sword, or you're just kind of all over the place on what benefits you, who's paying the most. And, you know, one thing I'll say that I've always felt was consistent is that he would go to the highest bidder.
I mean, but isn't that a politician anyway? Haven't we all learned that lesson? They're not your friend.
I still think there's probably like 4 good politicians in the world. Like 4, like there's because you don't come in like that. That is like, you cannot tell me somebody that everyone is going in like, I'm about to rob these motherfuckers blind. No one is going in like that. They're going in all hopeful, like hope each year. Like, I'm like, even if you think about, look how Obama looked when he was done.
Sure. I think that there's a very real argument about that 4 years or 8 years.
4 years he was looking like that motherfucker aged so quickly. Like, it really was not like, if you just really in there on some bullshit, not just playing, like, he aged so quickly. Because it wasn't, I think that the thing is that you have to be either really fucking naive or a fucking, like, I guess, a megalomaniac to want to be president.
Sure,
And I think
or
Obama too,
handpicked
leave.
and groomed.
Not even groomed, perhaps, but even two people groomed don't know. Like, there's plenty of people who I want to think of. Celine Dion, completely groomed, and she will talk about her husband in the most respectful way, but he met her at 12, and he was like in his 30s. And even now in her 50s, she still talks about him like he's such a good man, but she was fucking groomed. So when you're groomed, you don't really know that you're groomed. That's the beauty of being groomed. You don't realize that someone's doing that.
I'll give it to you because I will say that at one point in time, I used to think that most people were good people. What I think right now is that you can't blanket statement that for anybody. And then inside of groups of people, you've got good people and you got bad people, you got fucked up people and you got great people. And then from there, can we make the math? At least here in America, I think we can, because the common enemy is the fact that resources are not distributed in a way that people think makes sense. For having to pay for things in an astronomical increment that used to not be. You know, if the cost of bread used to be $1 and now it's $4, that's kind of insane. If you don't make that much money to, you know, offset that cost.
But how much perfume costs? I bought the same fucking bottle last year for $130, and now you want 170 fucking two. That was like my first real, like, me witnessing inflation in real time, because that was like it
was only 12 months ago, right? And then
I know I bought that. Look, I even went and checked the receipt and everything. Like, I pulled up my little thing on Ulta, like, I know.
Was it the taxes, or it just cost that much now?
No, so never the taxes in Texas. Like never. But no, it just had went up that much because it increased, because it was, I guess, inflation. I don't know if the cost of making the perfume, procuring the ingredients or whatever. But
right.
I noticed that, like, on average, perfumes were ranging. They're like 90 to 130 for like the 3.4 ounce bottle. And then now it's like, again, it's like 160, 170. Like, I'm like, damn, it's almost, so even 200 sometimes would be beneath me. Now it's like just to be expected. Like,
right.
Like, if you don't have $200, don't even think about getting a decent bottle.
Don't even worry about it.
Perfume. Yeah. It's not going to happen.
That's tough, but that's real, because 12 months is only a year. Most people are not doubling or tripling their income in a year, as much as you'd like to think that when it's time for your little review at your company, that you get to say, I did the things and I deserve to get this. And they say, okay, yeah, you did the things, and you can keep your job, and, you know, make sure you come to that holiday party.
And it depends on what's going on with the economy, because I'll be honest and say too, like when COVID was going on and people were being furloughed, so they furloughed some of my colleagues, and then they told the rest of us we need to take a 10% pay cut for 6 months. And we all took the 10, like, do you want to get laid off or you won't do the 10% pay cut? We all took the 10% pay cut. I will say that at the end of the year, they gave it all back to us, like in December, but but I'll say this. So now the company I'm with, one, I don't work 12 jobs anymore. So there's that. And in December, the company I'm with now, they announced that they don't know if they'll be able to continue, and more so on the no of continue giving our bonus. And the funny part is our bonus is 10%. So it's like, so the funny part is like
taking a 10% pay cut.
Indirectly making less money. But going back to 10% being laid off,
Right.
They're
got a job, right.
I'm just gonna get a husband so I can like split bills or something. Like, I'm willing to go
not pay
this
bills.
one. Like, I was never. I didn't when I was married before, but this go round, I might make an exception for significant
not
period
this
of time.
go round. As long as you're not out here saying that you are saving yourself for marriage, I will let you have all of that. You can have that all. Saw a post on Facebook earlier, and I don't want to derail there because the delusion with some people. But I feel you. You know,
I mean, delusion is actually perfect. Let's go back to what we were talking about. So this 14th Amendment thing. So
look, great. Here we go. It's a good little segue.
Please explain your lawsuit against this attempt to undo birthright citizenship.
Joy, you started this off on exactly the right note. After the Dred Scott decision came down, Abraham Lincoln called it an abomination, called it undermining core values that the Declaration of Independence calls for and that decency and justice call for. Here's the rule in the 14th Amendment. Everyone born here is a citizen, period, full stop. The idea that a president would seek to undermine the Constitution with an executive order is an assault on the basic idea that we live under the rule of law. We have rules for how we change our Constitution, and it's not the president signing an executive order. This president is going to lose in court because the 14th Amendment is clear. If you're born here, you're a citizen. And that's been up to the Supreme Court twice. Maybe it'll be a third time. I'm confident we're going to win.
Now, this is a little spicy, you guys, because I didn't know that that's what he was going to say, but I'm glad he said it. And I'm glad I didn't watch this before, because I think that that's how most of America feels. They feel like the 14th Amendment gives an automatic, if you're born here, you're a citizen. I mean, even I thought that that's what it meant until I read it. Have you read it?
I did read it. I
Okay.
read it earlier today.
So then inside of it, there's a little piece of it that says, in the jurisdiction thereof, right? Let's pull it up, because I don't want to misquote. I think that that's what has been happening. People have been simplifying something that's very specific. And our Constitution has been very specific. How do I know this? It's very simple. They left us out, and everybody knew that they left us out. And you can't leave us out unless you were very specific. How does all men not equate to all men unless we were very specific? So I'm just going to have to use the fact that the words were specifically and purposely used for a reason. I think it's up on your screen. There it is for the crowd. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the state of which, and of the state wherein they reside. That first part is everybody's issue, because they're leaving out that jurisdiction thereof.
So I want to point out two things. So one, I don't think that the birthright shit is going to fly, to be honest with you. You cannot override a constitutional amendment with an executive order.
Well, that's true. You can't override the Constitution with an executive order.
That being said, though, is you got to kind of admire the audacity. Like, as much as shit doesn't get done with Democrats, like, who's going to do it anyways? Like, legitimately, you cannot override the Constitution with an executive order, but he doesn't give a fuck. And you would almost think that there might be a Democrat in office if they had that same tenacity of, I'm just going to do the shit and try me in court, but instead they're like, well, we can only move the marker a little bit. But they'd never have any problems giving themselves a pay raise. They didn't have a problem with voting against TikTok, even though, it's like, well, China, we want to protect you. Do you? Because every fucking thing we have is from China, motherfucker. Everything. The chicken, the apples. Do you know that we ship our produce or poultry to China, have them clean it and do their whole process, then they ship it back?
Well, that's because Purdue was bought. All that land is a lot of land that China owns over here, and they're chicken farms, y'all. Like
300, it was like 300,000 plus acres of American land. So you can't tell me, not included, we owe China over like $1 trillion. So how you gonna tell me you don't trust them, but we owe them money?
Right.
Like, also, I would never owe money to someone who didn't trust me or I didn't trust. Like, you wouldn't even be someone I would borrow from, because when you go to then take the money back, I don't even know how you're gonna use that shit against me. This might be the China Republic in a minute. I'm not fucking with you. So to me, that so undermines. But I mean, it goes back to, you guys could do stupid shit like that. This is some stupid shit too, but it's in line with a lot of his supporters. A lot of people that are anti-immigration, he's trying to make a way where there's no motherfucking way. And he's willing to take the heat. And that's the thing too. I think when you're like, the odd part is, like, he's not a normal conservative. Let's be honest. He's kind of an outcast. and people just grew to love him. You know what I mean? Like he grew on them. They're like, well, or it's almost like something cancerous. They couldn't get rid of it. It's like, well, if you kill the host, they're like, well, all right, then we just gonna go with this shit. And so it's like this weird ass executive order, but then it kind of coincides, and I have everyone like, well, as he said, it was for Black children of descendants of slaves. That's what he says that it was for. I did do some research, and it does say specifically that's why. However, I want you to keep in mind that we're wanting to deport a lot of our workers because they're not here legally, or they a little too brown, they speak a little too much Spanish or whatever. In fact, we still need to find a national language because we do not. And America does not have an official language. Let's start there. And the first language actually spoken here was Spanish. Anywho, so we want to deport them. And then I guess at that point, we're going to give Black people back their jobs. Because remember, he was saying that these same immigrants were taking Black jobs. So if the field workers, so really they want to put niggas back in the field, is what it sound like to me. And as a kitchen nigga, because I'm not going to the field, like you see my complexion, I'm not in the field.
You're not going to the kitchen either, Marie.
It really doesn't even,
somebody's
like,
bed warmer. I'm sorry.
Like it's not going to happen to me. But I'm saying I'm really fighting for the totality. That's how you know I care about people, because I'm like, so they really want to put y'all back in the field. And then people are really arguing. I've had people say, well, yeah, then they can get the jobs back. The low paying job?
No, see, at that point, that's my defense to that side of the argument is that they withheld our ability to make money with the skills that they forced us to acquire. From there, if we're not able to do the jobs that we've been doing, the jobs that we were doing for free, because you don't want to pay us anymore, and then you'll go and pay people less than what it's worth because you can get away with it.
Just give
or
them
more, whatever it is. But
them a good work environment.
Sharecropping, when we had ours, it wasn't great, but it was a time when they had to do something that made sense for us. And because they don't like having to do things that make sense for us, that means that it's going to be more of us. They had to get rid of all that shit. Eminent domain and taking away land. And then, well, if you don't have any land, but all you know how to do is farm, you might move to an area that seems like it's up and coming. You've got the age of the machine and manufacturing, but now all those jobs are gone, right? Because we've sent them all away, and all of these places that were booming because of these things are not booming anymore. Coal, we talked about that one time with the fracking and Kamala. I say all that to say that if you were to give the Blacks the jobs back, these labor jobs, you would have to pay them because they're citizens. You can't pay them less than minimum wage.
What do you mean minimum wage is $7?
Wage.
Minimum wage isn't even $8. That's not even a living.
Isn't that one of the fights though? That minimum wage needs
First
to
of all, the
increase?
fact that we've been having that fight for fucking decades let you know they don't give a fuck. They're not going to raise the wage if they don't have to. So
right, if they don't have to.
But
that's the thing.
But if
they don't have to right now, because there's people who will work for less than and then will still participate in the economy, which is what people keep saying. They pay taxes. Everybody pays sales tax. And
no, they also pay taxes. So here's the thing. If they're actually using a fake identity to work, or no one's looking into it, they do actually pay taxes with that, and their employer pays taxes on their behalf.
Let's talk about that though, because I had to do a fact check on myself before even saying this out loud. There was a there was a caller on another show that I was watching, and she was talking about her cousin or her cousin's husband or something. He was in the military. He was a veteran. Mm-hmm. He had been out for a long time, but he got deported. And then from there, it's like, well, shit, does the military be deporting people? And this Snopes article that I came across is from 2018. So I don't remember who was president in 2018. I don't know. But in 2018, we're having the same conversation, right? And
Obama was president in 2018.
But in 2018, we're talking about the fact that the military does, in fact, deport veterans. And just being in the military doesn't mean that you get an automatic route to citizenship. You still got to do things So then you've got people who are not citizens going into the military, doing the things, fighting for us, and then getting out of the military. But because they've never followed through with their paperwork, they thought that it was cool to just fight for the country or whatever. Now you're in a time where people are checking paperwork and you're one of the first people to go because they already know who you are.
Wait a
You've
minute.
been undocumented the whole time.
Oh, wait a minute. So let me get this right. You can work for the federal government and then, mind you, so let me tell you something. I don't know if you've ever signed up to join the military or anything, but they do. I've actually gone down to MEPS. I was in reserve. So they do like fingerprints, background checks, FBI checks, the whole motherfucking thing, right? So you can't tell me that they didn't fucking know and then not care.
Well, that's the thing. They absolutely do know. That's why I pulled this up. Because
and
y'all
that's
not about
so-
to misquote me today.
That's so fucked up on so
It
many levels
is.
to be aware of that, to let them provide their service, and then like, yeah, well, so even too, it also takes their ability to speak up for themselves. It takes their ability to, because in essence too, the moment you do something I don't like, I have this thing on you. I have this thing on you. I mean, but it also, I think it really just a reflection of how fucked up our government is.
I would agree that our government is very fucked up, and it is because they've never actually paid any sort of reparation, for their original crime, which is fucking with the original people who were here, removing them from their lands, making them have all sorts of interrelationship dynamics with people that aren't the same as them, even though they might share the fact that they all got melanin. Sometimes their hair curls up when it gets wet. I don't really know what it was other than they created race.
Are you one of those people that believe that Africans were here, they didn't come over on the boat, they were already here? Or
oh yeah, not believe, there's evidence. I've followed the evidence.
All of those that were enslaved were already here? Or
no, the transatlantic slave trade did happen, but it didn't happen in the numbers that they report. There's absolutely no way for it to have happened in the numbers that they report, because there's no evidence of these ships, as much as there might be some chains here and some chains there. And the way that I saw them pull out a bust of Nefertiti that they had just made 28 hours ago in Egypt, like they had just discovered it, I'm past there. This is a discovery. No. Carbon dating, I think that that's something that's safe right now. And there's mounds here in Virginia that have had and have evidence of us being here like 13,000 years ago, which would be before Columbus by lots and lots and lots of years. But just, in the 1400s, there's already evidence by Europeans of different descent, French, Belgian, Polish, German even, that talk about all these niggas around the globe and where they are and what they look like. So that's why I would say that there was niggas here first, but I don't know if there was African, as much as everybody agrees that life started on the place that we call Africa. But, that's lots of different levels of conversation. So at the end of the day, there was already Black people here. And then with the slaves that they were bringing over, the people that they were removing from the land that they were already on, the fact that all of the people who were enslaved were prisoners of war, it's an ethnogenocide that happens. From there, what I've learned recently is that during the Civil War, when them two white generals gave the niggas on the plantation some guns and said, hey, it's against the law to give you weapons, but we're losing and we're not going to win without your help. And then they got the help. All these other niggas started coming out of nowhere. And that's a direct quote, not direct quote, but that's loosely quoted from Dr. Winters and all of the studying that he's done. And then from there, we've never been counted correctly on the censuses. We've never cared enough to correct them. And because they're infantile in their being here, you just got to wait them out, and then, we can get back to doing things. Global warming is the earth waiting things out and then doing things when things need to be done, and then heating period, cooling period, heating period, cooling period. Things grow, they die, they grow, they die, stuff like that. So that's my long and short answer.
Yeah, I'm gonna get you these long and short and so here's the thing. I'm gonna need you to start breaking your shit down, and then
Look, it's
and then pregnant pause. So
too
then someone can then I'm like, so I don't.
Well, let's start here. The transatlantic slave trade happened, but it wasn't all these millions of people that they say. As much as people from here got moved south to South America and to Europe. And then people from Africa did come here.
It is even documented that they did send people to. So here's my thing, though, right? Here's something I don't, and I guess to me it's your definition of black, because black was never a thing until they started kind of fucking with people. So
no. White was never a thing until they started fucking with people. Black has always been documented, even to the pyramids and stone tablets. Black.
So the term
always
black is documented.
Black to identify people specifically. And then from there, you've got different
other languages, I'm assuming. So that would be the only way that we would know that that's what they're utilizing. So
wait a minute, what'd you say?
Because I'm saying in the languages, like we were to say like Latin or, I guess, what is it, Kemetic language? So I'm trying to identify, because to me,
all of them, your English counterpart for whatever the word is would be black. And then the evidence would be that if you've got the ability to create all these colors and there's a name for all these colors, well, then that would be your name for black, if that's what it is.
And I guess I'm asking that because while they noted the Nubians have been documented as being, dark skinned throughout Africa, I've never seen anyone reference each other as black outside of us referencing or white people referencing them. So that's where my question comes from.
That's a good point. And to that point, I would say we're the only people on the planet currently that identify ourselves as black. But when people use black as a full stop identifier, it's disingenuous, because what type of black? Who are you from? Who are your people? Where are you from? Are you Jamaican black? Are you Nigerian black? And like you said, no other groups of melanated people on the planet identify themselves as black first, unless you are an American. From there, I think that it was probably always just a disconnect from wanting to call yourself American. But what else are you going to call yourself? The land that you've been on.
Until they came to America. They were legitimate, whatever you was French, you was French, you was, they would never identify themselves as white until they came to America.
Kinda. Yeah. I think that there's more studying I need to do there, but it seems like 1492, when Christopher Columbus sailed that ocean blue and then didn't get here, that's when things started getting fucked up. But y'all are going to have to just excuse my ignorance here, because I don't know as much as I want to know. What I do know, though, is that it's the other way around. White is the invention. There was no such thing as white until they created it. From there, well, now we're in this race, because if you're not white, then what are you? But if you're not black and you're not white, what are you? Do you get a say if you're not black or if you're not white? And not really, not in this thing, because essentially if you're not white, that's it, full stop. But then who gets to be white, right? According to them, if you were not a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, you were not white. If you were Irish or, German or Italian, you were not white. But now in 2025, you are white if you want to be white, if you got the right complexion. And
you could be from the Middle East and be white if you want to.
Right now, right. I've had students darker than me on their student paperwork. It said white, coming straight out of Africa. But I'm like, okay, whatever your parent wants you to be, I'm gonna just call you by your name. But I say all that to say that the 14th Amendment, specifically for the black people here, I think that if you know about the immigration boom and how many people got here when, then you would know that the specific wording, it could only have been referencing that group of blacks. And then my issue is that there should have been a cutoff. If it was only for them blacks, why did you allow so many people, right? If you look at the laws in 1969, it's like an addendum to this amendment where it talks more about that being birthed here and your right to be birthed here, but it tags the 14th Amendment. And that lawyer that we just saw, it was so crazy because when you leave off bits and pieces of the law, you might come across a judge who will say, well, actually, what does the full law say? And I had a situation just like that. Because if the law says, you can't expose somebody's, bare ass, right? But then you expose somebody in underwear, and then you say, well, they weren't naked. There was no bare ass. But then that little part, that's a comma that says and in any state of undress. If you leave that part off, then maybe you think that you will win your case. But then if you add it, then maybe you know that you can't use that as your excuse to expose somebody's bare ass. But I just thought that was beautifully worded, because if it's like this, then maybe people are saying they want to change the law. Why can't we change the law, Marie? They want to add all these people here. Let's make them legal. Let's not do what Arizona did and just make them legal because the Supreme Court signed off on it. 98,000 people who've been voting for the past 20 years who were not supposed to be voting are now eligible to vote in future elections because we didn't catch it for the past 2 decades. Let's not do that. Let's just give them the path to get there the right way. But the right way, I don't know. Because there's this other immigrant I want to tell you about. And he was working for Border Patrol. And he was an illegal. And his ass got deported too. And I'm like...
But I mean, I guess he just wanted a job.
No, I was reading this man's story, Marie, and he was saying basically that if I go and I enforce the borders, then maybe they'll see me as one of them type of things. And I'm like...
People like that shouldn't talk. Like, he should have just been like, it was just a fucking job. I just work here. I mean, because that's no different than like the slave overseer, the black slave overseer. Like, yeah, it's either me or you. For now, maybe they won't even notice me. I knew someone that was over the UA test for the military, like for their squadron. And because he was the tester, he didn't have to be tested. So he got high. But he was fine because, again, he's the tester, he's the administrator. So he doesn't have to worry about being tested because he never will have to test himself, because that's a conflict of interest. But I don't know. That's all of that sounds crazy. Like, to even get that job and be illegal, like, where was the due diligence on the hire? But it's like going back to people just need a body, which I think to some degree that's where a lot of that stuff comes from. But I also feel like too, like, here's the thing. I may not work as hard as other people will. I'm not. Even people that have been given second chances, sometimes they work even harder because they got a second chance just to have a chance. So imagine coming to this country, you're trying to get away from whatever destabilization that the American government has done in your country. Even when we talk about the Haitian immigrants, it recently came out that the CIA was behind the assassination of their last president. That's crazy. That's real crazy. And there's a lot of things with that, even with the Clintons taking all that money that was supposed to help the Haitians build homes and got millions and millions of dollars and built one house. Where the fuck is the rest of that money at? I know you didn't build $1 million home. So they're here, right? They come here. They just want the opportunity. There was even this place in Springfield, Ohio, that even with those immigrants being here, because even too, those are the ones they want to target, and they're actually legally here seeking asylum, but they want to get rid of them as well. They said that it's fueled their economy, their property value has gone up. There's so many benefits to them being here. So we would undo that just because, well, you're the wrong complexion. Because even here's the thing. President Trump's wife is Russian. She's from Russia.
Very true.
And
JD Vance's wife is from where?
Generation American. Her parents were from India. They're immigrants. it's kind of like I don't know, y'all just not the right group of motherfuckers to be doing. But even maybe see that's how we here we got our immigrant and like you don't get to have one.
I feel you on that. I have 2 clips for you. One is JD Vance himself, and then the other is from an immigrant, a legal immigrant. And to me, it's not my fight at all. But I also hear what you would say. I hear you in the back of my head, Marie, where you're like, well, what about the Jewish people? Didn't they say it's not happening to me? But then them niggas also got hauled away and
oh, there was plenty of them. Like when it ain't happened to me, like there's a whole poem about how it ain't happened to me, and then one day they came for me, wasn't nobody left to speak for me. But I don't know. I want to get deported. I'm trying to get all the way over in Africa. They got some really nice, inexpensive real estate. Then they be sick of us and shit, trying to deport us. All these fucking Americans flooding over.
Look, you need to look at those stories because there's already people who thought that the grass was greener on the other side, and they found out
the grass is greener. They just, it ain't Trump. But go ahead. Play the thing.
Hey, when it comes to this deportation shit,
so low?
I got mixed feelings, man, because I do got a heart. Like I feel bad for the kids, and I feel bad for the people who came over here with honest intentions.
Hey Wes, so I had to stitch you because I feel my voice is very important in this whole illegal migrants deportation conversation. Obviously, I immigrated here in 2013. I had a green card. I waited 8 months for my green card, and I'll tell you why. It is because Obama was in power at the time, and he had priority to DACA. As you know, DACA are the children of illegals. We literally were put on hold, us legal immigrants applying the right way and paying our fees, were put on hold for those guys to be processed, which to me is just playing the system. That's what it is. I'm going to come here illegally and I'll have a child, and then by birthright, which is why I'm so happy Trump is getting rid of that, they're going to be citizens. And then they can petition for me. They are twisted ways, but let me tell you how it affects people trying to come in the right way. 1, it delays your process unfairly. 2, it marks your country among the countries with red flags on them that you should be over scrutinized when you're trying to get a green card. In the 90s, a lot of Kenyans and other countries would play the system. They would marry out of convenience, right? Get to the States, get a divorce immediately, right after they got citizenship. The USCIS caught on to that. So guess what that did for us? It delayed our process, and it adds one more step, which costs more money because of those people who messed up the first time. That's why, to be honest, I don't feel bad for people getting deported. Like Tom Homan said, they don't have to be separated. They can be deported together. Who said you have to be left behind? If you want to leave your child behind, that's on you. You should all go. All of you go. You have a country where your country of origin, right? Go back there. I feel zero sympathy for people who have literally broken the law to come to the United States. And then to make things worse, there are states, the sanctuary cities, which let's call it what it is, they're just harboring fugitives, right? They protect these people. I'm looking at you, New York. I'm looking at you, California. I'm looking at you, Boston. They hide these illegals, and then guess what? They use taxpayer funds to put them up and pay for their care and pay for their upkeep. Oh, let me add this. As a green card holder, I was not allowed to get any government assistance. That's one of the things you sign when you're applying for a petition to become an American resident, permanent resident, aka green card holder. You have to sign somewhere you're going to say, I shall not become a burden to the US government. So tell me why the hell illegals are getting government aid when even a legal permanent resident cannot. I paid over $10,000 to become a legal American citizen. I'm talking biometrics, the flight, the tests. Oh, also I had to have a clean certificate of good conduct from the Kenya police to be even allowed to schedule an interview at the US embassy. So because of all those reasons, I feel zero sympathy for people getting deported. Because guess what? No one gets to sneak around the system and come in the wrong way and then get to stay. Well, there are people like me who have to go through the right way and pay all the money in the world just to chase the American dream. I'm very passionate about this subject. I just want to give you some insights so that you can understand why some of us are just like, woo! Take him out!
Okay, so
I didn't like her.
I know you wouldn't like it, but I had to play
I
it
don't
because
like-
I can't speak for a person who went through the process. I've never been anti-immigration as much as I want things applied the way that they're supposed to be applied. The
Do
law,
you know how wealthy
visas,
people
all
were
that
able
shit.
to? Like, I remember I worked for somebody who worked for, he was Lebanese. He was wealthy Lebanese. And like they're known, mind you, family from Lebanon, a lot of peers. And what I will say too is that the company I work for brought a lot of people in that were new to America, where they were fresh out of college. So also, so you could be a developer and have like be on your shit. They're paying you like 40 grand. Like you're getting paid the lowest while you're developing for them as a developer. That being said, it was like a common knowledge among all of them just to hire a Jewish lawyer. That was like the higher expensive Jewish lawyer, they'll get it done. But just no matter what, they'll get it done. So even too in America, it's not equitable. Like it's just another situation where it's all about, do you have enough money? Did you obtain enough money to be able to do this said thing? Like even to me, for her to be from Kenya, she must come from a wealthy
family. Absolutely.
and even you can tell her vernacular how astute she was when she was talking.
Oh no,
So
she went to school. She went to school.
So it was,
she's an educated and privileged.
But I guarantee you too, a lot of times those are the ones too that look down on American blacks.
Sure.
But
I mean, there's another sister, African sister in the UK, and she said straight out of her mouth, I cannot find the clip, y'all, but she said it, and I know a lot of y'all seen it, that immigrants, especially African ones, if they've made it out, they are fighting tooth and nail to stay because they're not trying to go back, and they're there to take. They're not there to fight for nothing. They're not there to be your brother in arms. They're there for the job, to get that money, send it back home.
I don't think that why would they be your brother of arms when they don't even have? So again, I'm not ADOS, so to be clear, I'm not going to say that. So please understand, I'm not saying that because in essence, they grew up in a homogeneous black environment. Even the people that was oppressing them were white or black men. Black people were oppressing those black people, right? So that's also why they can't totally relate in the first place. Like,
no, it's a different experience for sure, and that's why I believe. Oh, go ahead.
As Americans, we are we're a little spoiled, especially millennials. Like, again, I'm not working somewhere, I'm not getting good benefits.
Right.
Yeah, if I got to work actually the 40 hours that they hire me for, that sound like too much. Like what? And the fact that they would probably have to work really hard in their own fucking country, and they get like they feel like we're pansies to some degree. Like you're worried about some white man, what he thinks about you. Like, they're focused on like, look here. Again, like you said, I came here to do my job.
Right.
And again, and I don't want to stereotype and say that's all.
No, it's not all. That's why I'm trying not to blanket state.
I feel like that. But I would never expect them to relate with the African American experience, just simply because it actually takes a lifetime for you to have that ass whooping, for you to really get for you to get it. You can't just be like, because here's the thing, people are going to be funny towards you regardless. So you might get a little. But you got to have the full upbringing of just being black in America, the things that seem questionable like your whole life. I don't know. They say she never wanted to put the money directly in my hand. You got to have that full
I mean, yeah, but that's why
boy,
it's that black experience that everybody feels like if you make it here and then the niggas finally get reparations, that every black person here is going to get reparations. And that's why all of these things are so specific, and we got to use the specifics of these conversations. If you're a person who says this shit matters to you, I'm a person who says it matters to me, so that's why I give a damn. Maybe it doesn't matter to you, but I find that there are a lot of people who either one, don't know that this is where we are in the conversation. Like, oh, I didn't know that the government had a study. Like, if only the government was okay, they've been studying longer than I've been alive to come to a conclusion that they need to do some more studying, when no other groups have to go through years, decades of studying before some type of tangible benefit starts to repair whatever was fucked up from internment camps from the Japanese. And look, for what it's worth, all Asians were not getting hemmed up in the Japanese internment camps. That didn't happen as a mass thing. So, when people start saying, well, all the blacks are gonna get. It's not gonna be all the anybody. If you get hemmed up,
now they was hemming up people that looked Asian, like, or that had the Japanese look, because again, too, they still could identify who was who. So there was definitely Vietnamese, Chinese that were in that Japanese German camp.
Just
well,
not like the boogeyman. There's always gonna be a one-off because nothing is absolute. Nothing's absolute. That is probably the only thing that's absolute, is that nothing is absolute.
Absolutely.
Outside of that, right? You know, we're gonna have some things that occur, and people need to be prepared. I had a conversation. It was a beautiful conversation with a woman that I know we don't see eye to eye with politically, but just the fact that we were leaving a lot out, and we could kind of have like a rounded conversation about what people should do. It ended up being like what are you doing specifically? Like, if you're scared that they're gonna come take your weapons, are you safe and secure? Are you scared that they're gonna charge $1,000 for an avocado? Did you start growing your avocado tree? Like, what are people doing to prepare for the fall or whatever, the shoe dropping, whatever the bad thing that's happening? Are you ready for it?
I just might need to die because I'm not doing like I think
Marie,
the zombie apocalypse the other night. I'm like, well, no, you just have to kill me. Well, for what? Why am I going through all this? Why am I dealing? I'm like, humans are fucking terrible anyway. So now I'm fighting to live. Like, I'm fighting zombies, and I'm gonna have to fight real humans because they're fucking terrible. Like, take me out of this place. Take me out there. I'm going. When I come back, I'm not coming back to this planet, just so you know, because you guys are fucking brutal. You're terrible fucking people. Don't know why I ever took this assignment on. Still iffy about the assignment because, like, for real.
Look, I'm gonna tell you right now, your baby. This is the 17-year-old who made you watch The Walking Dead.
Girl, The Walking Dead, and I had to knit. If y'all seen this bullshit that I knitted, like, it just looked like it looked like a friendship, like a poor friendship bracelet.
No, look, I'm gonna tell you right now, that baby is trying to tell you something, because it's not the zombie apocalypse. People are gonna be trying to eat you. I love art, all the Easter eggs inside of art. They can't help it. But look, we're already in the zombie apocalypse. If you can walk into something because you were on your phone, you a zombie.
I'm like, you can see this. Like, so this was her little piece she made.
Oh, that's beautiful.
She's getting, so that's 1 month in. She's been 1 month in.
Congratulations. Look, so now you got somebody in your family who can make clothes. If the shit hits the fan, Marie,
you should make this pot holder.
You gotta take the little baby wins for when they come, because you know she's not telling you, Mom, we're dealing with the fucking apocalypse right now, as much as I feel like it's more of a, are you ready? Are you doing things that make sense? Are you drinking water? Are you able to walk a mile? That's been my thing for like 4 years. We're listening to people who can't walk a mile. If you can't fucking walk a mile, why is anybody listening to you? And I don't mean because I'm healthy or fit or whatever, but I mean, really, if the shit was to hit the fan and we had to follow your ass to safety, could we do it? No, because your ass is going to be winded in 50 meters.
I mean, I can walk a mile, and you know, I like to climb a little rock a little bit and everything.
But that's what I'm saying.
I'm like, surprising everybody. Like, you climbed rocks?
Wins.
I love that sort of shit. I love outdoors when I'm not indoors. I'm like, I try to make the best of everywhere I'm at.
That's a little baby win to me, because there was a time where we weren't doing shit like that. People would say, oh, rock climbing is some white people shit. First of all, they weren't here to write on the fucking walls. Like, so if there's rock climbing shit, that's our shit.
Like, it's really, look, you see me climbing rocks, then it's black people shit. You see me skiing, that's black people shit. Anything you see me doing is black people shit. I'm doing it. Okay?
Right. Yeah. We swim and we play in the snow, goddammit. I'm sorry.
We give people the hardest time. We could see a nigga with an umbrella, like, nigga out here with an umbrella, like,
you're ready for the rain.
Roasted for being prepared. Like, what the fuck? Like, oh, look at this this comrade. Look at this nigga.
No, that's the beauty of us. I love it, because you felt some kind of way, but you also was like, I bet your ass gonna be looking stupid if it starts raining, and then you get your little chuckle or whatever, or at least maybe that person felt stupid for not having an umbrella, and this is the only way that they could have their accountability moment for not being prepared for the weather that everybody knows the fuck is coming. But I mean, we have that. Black Americans, especially not just ones who've been here for a generation, but ones who've been here, we have a frequency that we're all on where you can see another one of you in the midst of a crowd and give a nod and know what's up. Because I've seen a head nod from a person who's not from here. They don't know what the fuck is going on. They want you to black. What'd you say?
Do you know the non-white people smile code switch? Because me and my girlfriend's home, and I was like, the funny part, I'm in the parking lot, I'm putting my groceries in the car. I see a nigga I know. I do the nod. Then this white lady walked past me, and I was just like, bitch, you just said hi to two different people, like the way that they understood. Like he knew, he gave me the nod too. And then I'm like, oh my God, like, and I didn't even think about it. I just seen her gave it that.
I don't even know if that's code switching. You just being polite and making it so that everybody understands you.
Yeah, like I knew your language. I knew your language.
Right.
Non-verbal non-verbal hellos together. Don't worry, I'm gonna give you that.
Think about it, Marie. Coming from a people who were not allowed to talk to each other, right? You would get a muzzle put on you if you was in the people who were enslaved, because check it, all of our ancestors were not enslaved. Even if you've got slavery in your ancestry, that was not all of your ancestors. I'm not claiming that because I haven't seen it on paper. So somebody would have to show me all 16 of my great grandfathers and mothers all on a plantation. Like I've never seen that.
Plantation, and we got the last name of, like my grandfather has the last name of the plantation owner.
You seen? Wait. But that's still just on one side.
Oh, did you know I'm white on this other side? Right.
Well, see, on the other side, you might own some.
I actually did both of their trees. I quit whenever I got to the white people. So I did both of the trees. I got down to everything. And then when I got to the whites, I stopped because I was just kind of annoyed that like that's where our history got cut off at, because you motherfuckers wanted to be slave masters. And it was like, one of them was like Scottish. And then I think the other one was like Scottish too, which then made me kind of, oh, you motherfuckers all like that, like you all came here.
Not
poor.
necessarily.
Like, was that just the Irish? I'm like, either way.
That's the unlearn, relearn moment for us.
And then what made it even worse was that all the mixed slaves kept like intermarrying other mixed slaves, I guess because they was in a house together or some shit. So then like the interesting part is like they all like, so it's like generation 1, generation 2, all just more mixed slaves. Then all of a sudden, then it was like probably my granddad before my great granddad. That's when the nigga switched it up and went a little blacker. But it was really, so even too, it was like my dad's great aunt who's like 80 something years old. She's a quarter white just because of all the,
Right.
So it's kind of like, huh.
No, I mean, I've seen that though. On my mom's side, but not just my mom. It's my mom's side, right? Because once you start doing your paperwork, you find that you got a lot of ancestors. And on that specific side, like you just said, the paperwork looks like mulatto, nigga.
But they was definitely, so I will say this, they was actually filling out their census forms, which I don't know why. I'm like, y'all was really active. Like, you just filled that shit out all the time. Like, why would you even tell these people your business? They was definitely filling out their census forms. It makes me wonder if they wanted to participate in their government and they trusted them a little bit or something. I don't know. Because a part of me just I don't even fill out my census. Like, yeah, I mean, they be saying you might pull back, like it's too many of y'all over here.
I think that like I said earlier, in my opinion, without giving y'all an actual fact, I'd like to believe that what I've learned from Dr. Winters is accurate just from the little bit of digging I've done. The census numbers have never been accurate because they lied about how many of them were there. If there were so many white people in the country, they wouldn't have needed 3/5 clause. And then from there, well, what happened to all the niggas? Did they just die? They just magically disappeared? What happened to them?
Did you think that in essence that there were so many mixed race people that they needed the 3/5 clause or whatever? Because like, to some degree, they're like, well, you can't be white, you can't be white. Because I mean, overall, there probably was a lot of that going around.
There was, but that's what I'm gonna say. 2 unlearn, relearn moments for you and the audience if you need it. The first one would be that Oliver Cromwell was not white. So that would be the Lord and Protector Oliver Cromwell from England, that if you look his picture up right now, you're going to see a white guy, wasn't white. From there, if this guy wasn't white, then he might have been instrumental. And the only reason that there's, well, I'm saying, so then that's just off the picture that they're giving. You do some more digging, he looks a little bit more black than biracial, but still, I say all that to say that the Scottish people that you was talking about in your family, we in our heads make them white. But what if they weren't white? What if we've been dealing with nigga shit the entire time, and maybe just we didn't understand the ramifications of chattel slavery because it hadn't ever existed. And then from there, well, now a new people, because all these different groups of people have been forced together, not allowed to talk. Now we resulted to head nods and, different little looks that we all have to understand in order to be safe. And well, welcome to 2025, where we got the orange man who's not white or black pissing everybody off. And it's like, what do we do? Do we leave? I don't want to leave. Do we stay? I think we should stay. But then I need some people to start doing some things that Maurice talked about in previous shows that we can't talk about tonight, or YouTube will be nasty to our show. But I know y'all, we talked about a lot. I told you before we were going to do that. And since we have to have a full rounded moment before we finish, here is our vice president.
For all.
Just kidding. Ha, wrong one. It's this one. Bad Eve. Okay, here it is.
If you come here on vacation and you have a baby in an American hospital, that baby doesn't become an American citizen. If you're an illegal alien and you come here temporarily, hopefully, your child does not become an American citizen by virtue of just having been born on American soil.
Amanda Frost joins me now. She's a professor at the University of Virginia School of Law, director of the school's Immigration, Migration, and Human Rights program. Thank you for being here. Can you take us back? What was the intention behind passing the 14th Amendment, specifically this part about birthright citizenship?
Yeah, the goals were very clear of the Reconstruction Congress and the nation. This was shortly after the Civil War, and Congress's first goal was to overrule the infamous Dred Scott decision, in which the Supreme Court held that no Black person, whether they were free or slave, could ever be a U.S. citizen. So that was clearly the first and primary goal. The secondary goal, and they talked about this in the legislative history, was they wanted to integrate the children of immigrants. They knew America was a nation of immigrants, more were arriving, and they explicitly said, we want the children of immigrants to be equal citizens and equal America.
And that's the full rounded moment, because you're going to have people using their understanding of the law, and judges are people, y'all. It's not like they're going to be able to say, all right, well, this is what it is. And, why are we even having this conversation? No, we're a system of checks and balances, y'all. And the checks and balances say that if this system does this, well, this system over here is going to make sure that it's good. And then this system over here is going to make sure that it's sound. And then this system over here is going to make sure that it's applied the right way. And then all these systems are supposed to work together. I showed her and JD Vance because the second part of the law does seem like they left a little room. And I think that these things are done on purpose. You can't say and or and not expect people to use both sides. But if you say and, then you have to use both sides. That's what it means. And then, well, maybe it's not enough lawyers who want to fight this type of fight because they want something else. They're doing something else. I'm not really sure because I'm not a lawyer. I think that is a dream of mine one day if I ever had the time. But adding to the law to include other people and giving them immunities, is that the word? Immunities is like a loophole. And if we can change the law and then we can have amendments and we can add laws that are loopholes to laws, shouldn't we just get rid of all this shit and start over? Like we need to have something that isn't so infiltratable. Is that a word? I don't know. Did I just make that up?
I don't know. I'll let it fly.
Okay.
I'll allow
So,
it.
like, because, I mean, think about it. If the Constitution is the law, but then we can amend the Constitution, but then we can have laws in place that go around the Constitution. What the fuck is the Constitution at this point? It's just I don't even know what the word is. We suggest you use this, but you don't have to.
No. So, but here's the thing: it has to be slightly loosely, so there is room for interpretation. There is room for change with the times, right? So there's that, and it does leave them room to do that. Where if it's too cut and dry, like Texas has a really very, very sort of detailed constitution, which means a lot of things don't change. Because it's so.
Can you give me an example? What you mean?
How want to say this? There's not a lot of wiggle room with the laws that they have in place. If I can just make that like very.
I mean, I feel you. Look, they told me Virginia was red state, right? You're in a red state.
Every 2
I'm
years,
not in a red state
we
though.
can discuss legislation.
Hmm?
So that means if you want to change something in Texas, it takes you have to wait 2 years just to get it on the ballot to even talk about it. They have like a lot of just different rules in place that just make it difficult to make any changes, so they can keep the status quo.
Right. Okay. I mean, I guess that makes sense, right?
There's some room to kind of, okay,
Right.
What does that mean? Or if it's too precise, even, for example, where the fact that you even had to go in there and do a 3/5 law.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like our Constitution's been very.
No, I mean, I'm definitely a throw all the shit out kind of person. Like to me, why would we have a Constitution from like 1700s or whatever? Like that doesn't make it like 2025. Like that doesn't make any sense. I would think but it's kind of one of those things where who do we trust enough to take on to write a new one? Then the sad part too is that the Constitution, let's say we had the people in office right now, or even the previous ones, we definitely are dealing with another case of wealthy white landowners, but maybe they're not white. Maybe it's Nancy Pelosi and she's a woman. Maybe, it's whoever else is rich right now and they're writing legislation that benefits them. Because even too, right now, I mean, the biggest problem too is we have billionaires making legislation where even if they make a law they don't like, they could leave it anytime if they wanted to. Like you can't.
That's a hell of a point.
You can't be immune from the law that you make. They're like, nah, bitch, you got to be impacted by it too. So if the law ain't impacted by you, we can't do it.
That's a hell of a point. Maybe this is where we end it tonight. We can always come back here if you guys want us to. But this article from the Atlantic, it's an op-ed piece, it's an opinion, but it's from 2013. And in 2013, the U.S. needs a new constitution. Here's how to write it. And essentially, it is what you're talking about, but gives a little bit of evidence on just the people who wrote the damn Constitution and how they felt about why there needs to be things.
Do you know the last amendment that was done on the Constitution and when?
Go ahead, tell us.
It was 23 years ago.
And what was it?
Matter of fact, no, I'm lying. It was not 23 years ago. It was
your math ain't math.
Because I be forgetting what year it is. It was May 7th of 1992.
Good. 20. Marie.
Because in my mind, So, but here's the funny part. You know what the fuck it was?
What was it?
Salaries for congressmen and women.
No, you're lying.
That's the last fucking.
The last amendment to the Constitution solidified these fuckers getting paid six figures.
But here's the thing. From now on, they can't get an immediate pay raise. They have to wait to the next election cycle after they vote for the pay raise.
Oh, so that's important. Look, I've been wanting to have a show for the longest time. They can pull these midnight hours for themselves. You'll see the fucking filibustering come out the ass when it comes to their money. But when it comes to the American people, Congress don't got no time for you. They don't give a shit about you. And that's why, to a point that you made earlier, I used to think that people got into politics because they really wanted to change things, and they said if I were the person in charge, then I would be able to change things. I think that is some people, and then they get there and they're like, shit, there's checks and balances, and I didn't rub the right elbows or grease the right spot. You know, I didn't do some things, and now I'm being shut out even though I got voted for. The people are going to be mad at me for not doing these things. Let me do something. And then they start doing things. But at the end of the day, a lot of these people know that they're fucking corrupt. And the fact that they're not doing anything to fix the system that they know is corrupt is more of a reason for America to stay home during these elections. They don't give a shit about you. So
you want to hear a couple interesting fun facts?
Go ahead. Yes, I would love to.
So since 2000, there is a pay freeze on Congress salaries. And since 2010, they have rejected the automatic increase and have kept the pay raises that pay the same. So the pay freeze is $174,000.
And that means, for the people in the back or the slow people like me, that means that Congress makes $174,000 a year minimum.
But here's the benefit being in Congress. You have access to all this insider information, and then that gives you the ability to kind of make
insider trading, which is called insider trading. But if you were there for that meeting,
people, things like that you can establish nonprofits and get the right donors to influence you.
But all this shit, I think, needs to go.
It's almost like one of those cool jobs where it's like all these other perks. It's almost like being an athlete.
And then you get there and you find out that, well, you got to get the white wife before they really start treating you right. But then you get the white wife and they still treat you like you OJ. But maybe that's a different conversation for another night. At least tonight, I'm glad we were able to start this conversation because it is, I mean, at least on this channel, I don't want us to go so heavy where it goes above y'all's head or so deep where y'all get lost in the sauce. But I do think that some conversations do need to get started and be held by us, like the people who can walk a mile. Because right now we're listening to fat fuckers or old people, and this is nothing to disparage old people, but really, you can't walk a mile neither. If somebody has to drag your ass a mile because you can't do it, you're not fit to lead. You're fit to advise. Like, you've worked hard enough, let somebody carry you on their shoulders or something to where we need to get to. But being in the front, that might slow us down. And, well, again, this channel is so that we can start conversations that change things because they are listening to us. Anytime Ann Coulter or Trump says some shit that makes sense for us, it'll be because they've been listening to us and the maths. Now, are we going to be able to take the ball from them and get it across the finish line or the field goal or the touchdown or whatever the fuck, score the 2 points? Who knows? I don't know. I do know that so far, consistently, we've been paying attention to their inconsistencies across the board. Trump, Republicans, Democrats, Kamala and Joe, none of that shit makes sense. And if y'all agree with that, hit the fucking likes and make sure you subscribe to our channel because we have these conversations weekly. So until next time, or you have anything you want to tell them, make them come back. Where the fuck is Jesse? Jesse, where you at, you?
Right.
And TD, I don't know, people who were commenting on our post, on your post.
Yeah, it's weird today. Normally our thing comes up where like we didn't have any of our Facebook comments populate, but they were on the Facebook, but they didn't populate in our.
Ew, because my Twitter comments were popping up on Twitter, but not on.
Yeah, so here. Both of us.
Interesting.
I wonder if they changed something.
Maybe. Or they just don't like us tonight because they knew we were actually going to have a conversation that could change things. Make sure y'all share the show. Maybe you already knew all this stuff. I guarantee you there's somebody in your circle that doesn't know this stuff, and it would benefit them to at least start that dive. Till next week, y'all be good. Y'all have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.